there's so many times that I've wanted to do something and people kind of gatekeep for no reason, and I'm like, bro, like I'm not taking away from whatever it is you got going on, and not only that, but if I figure it out, now I'm gonna be petty and I'm gonna fucking shit on it. What are we talking about here? So like, actually, the highlight of one of the movies was Carmen Electra was in it.
Wow. Okay.
Now you gotta understand, I'm 17. Carmen Electra is like,
yeah, she's
bro,
popping.
Like,
yeah.
So I went and got my ears pierced specifically because I knew she was into dudes like Dave Navarro, Dennis Rodman. I was like, yo, I gotta up the edge a little bit, you know? I can't be pulling up like a square. So I got my ears pierced. Obviously, my dad being West Indian, he's like, oh, yeah, Botsy boy. So I was like, all right, it's probably not the best thing.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Maybe It Gets Better podcast. We got Sima, we got Ronto, we got BlckkStar, and who do we got under the umbrella today?
Marcel.
Hey, who are you though?
I was like, hold on. I was expecting like one of those like Shannon Sharp intros where the motherfucker's like,
Yeah.
you know, previously seen as this person and da 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 da. What was a claim? Da da da. This motherfucker was like, who do we have here?
Yeah, introduce yourself, man.
Shit is this?
All right, retake that. So we got Marcel Williams, actor.
Okay, actor. What else?
I did my research. So we got Marcel Williams, esteemed MC, amazing podcaster, actor, rom-com special. I watched it.
Okay.
Oh no!
So I got some questions about that. So
You've joined a class of maybe 7 people who watched it now. So
I got a Roku
congratulations.
TV, so
There
why
you
not?
go. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you sat through it with the ads, I respect it. Man. I respect it.
For Marcel, I'll give a little backstory on how I met Marcel. So there was a little workshop series that we did at the Gallery 223. Great guys over there introduced a lot of our youth to the intro to like clothing making, and there was also a section with podcasting with Marcel. I think that was maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, sounds about
right?
Yeah, I want to say
during
like
COVID time.
maybe 2022.
2022,
somewhere
right?
around there. Yeah. Because I don't think I'm trying to remember because that was. So Rich essentially asked me because like I had a podcast at the time. It wasn't like, you know, I was super proficient, but it was enough where like they didn't know the ins and outs of that, but they wanted it to be one of the fixtures in that building. So they came to me and asked me like, what do you think kind of equipment should we get? So then I was the one who kind of, you know, chose the microphones and the mixers and the programs that they would use and some of the lighting. I showed them how to do some basic editing, and then they were just like, yeah, why don't you do this for some of the kids that we have coming through and whatever. I was like, sure. So we did that for I don't even know how long, like 3-4 months, something like that. It was pretty sporadic, but I mean, look, something came of it. So
I was in that class. He was telling me all the ins and outs, and one thing that like I'm aware of industry, sometimes they don't give you the greatest advice. They'll be like, yeah, if you chase your dreams, you'll make it. I'm like, all right.
The generic stuff.
Yeah, the generic stuff. But Marcel, like I'm actually a student of the game, so I like good facilitators and stuff like that. So he gave me a lot of gems in terms of like what equipment to buy, like even how to do it. I think we did like a mock podcast, and this was at the time where I had the idea since like 2019 to do what we're doing right now, and you know, meeting up with the team and everything, we actually was able to bring it life, like ironically last year February. From there we've had thousands of views. We were able to grow our channel to 100+ subscribers. We're doing a unique take actually, and hosting and working with other youth to how like the ins and outs and host their stuff on our platform. So it's a business strategy at the end of the day. So, you know, I want to thank Marcel because he didn't have to do all of that by answering my questions and everything, but that kind of just shows the genuine nature of him and how he wanted to share something that he liked.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it's all about. I mean, there's so many times that I've wanted to do something and people kind of gatekeep for no reason, and I'm like, bro, like I'm not taking away from whatever it is you got going on, and not only that, but if I figure it out, now I'm gonna be petty and I'm gonna fucking shit on it. What are we talking about here? So I feel no reason. So like even when it comes to like with acting, I find it so crazy that more people don't pick up acting as a side hustle because they're always like, oh, like I'm not like the most attractive or like I'm not like the tallest, the thinnest or whatever the case is. Bro, especially when it comes to commercials, they're trying to represent everyone.
The everyday person.
Everyone. If you're missing an arm, if you have Down syndrome, if you fucking are 7 feet tall, 4 feet tall, you need representation. They gotta sell you diapers too. They gotta sell you fucking whatever the hell, water, whatever the shit is. So like, get into it. And so that's why it frustrates me when people are just like, they know that they can help somebody, but then they're like, nah, it's gonna take away from what I got going on, and it's like, no, it really won't. Like,
it actually might help you go even further because you showed someone something, they take it far, then they could drag you up with them too. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm just waiting for one of my predecessors to pop off so I can just milk that.
You know what I'm saying?
Thing and be like, yo, hey, remember that one time?
Exactly.
That one convo.
You remember? I showed you how to do that.
You know what they say? Each one to teach one, right? And like I feel like that's so important. Like you really gotta like help people because you never know when it might come in handy. So I actually did have a question for you. I had like 2 questions. So what made you stop podcasting?
It's actually not as exciting of a story as maybe you're hoping, but it falls in line with the rom-com project that I did. So when I first set out to do a podcast, initially I did a podcast for somebody else. So for context as to my podcast was actually a spite podcast.
Okay.
Because like I said, I'm petty. So when I was living, so I lived in Kelowna for like a year and a half, and this girl who's now engaged to somebody else, but at the time, like we kind of had a little situation going on or whatever.
A little sneaky link.
Yeah, but like the thing that was so weird to me is that she had like close to 1 million followers, but she lived in Kelowna. Kelowna's population is like 140,000. If you've never been, it's like a very small city, like 4 or 5 hour drive outside.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
She got OnlyFans?
Even more old school. This is again how old I am and how old she is. She had a cam.
OG.
Yeah. Super throwback. Like,
whoa, you don't know nothing about that. Yeah,
no.
Don't worry about it.
So she was throwback with the coochie videos.
Yeah.
But regardless, so she had some notoriety. So it was a no-brainer for her to start a podcast. So I was like, look, I'm just gonna be the B mic in your situation. It'll be branded after you. Like she was on the cover, the whole thing. Like I intentionally didn't put my name on there because I knew that she was gonna be fickle in terms of what she had to show up and do. Because I did all the pre-production for it. I did all of the editing for it. I did all of the distribution for it.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Everything. Yeah, I did everything. But I kind of saw it as like a learning experience where like if this doesn't work out, I know what I need to do for my podcast. Okay. So it only lasted a couple of months. I think maybe we put out like, I know we recorded probably like between 6 and 8 episodes, but we probably only put out like 4 or 5. And she kind of made an excuse being like, yeah, my agent, which didn't have an agent. She's like, my agent, she's like, they don't really feel like this is good for my brand and whatever. I'm like, your brand doesn't exist. Like, you're just a hot chick who flicked her bean for years. Yeah. Got a bunch of horny dudes following her. The Gooners. Now, yeah, the Gooners. So now it's like, we got to transition this audience into making it so that you can, start selling them shit with ad space and whatever the case is, right? So that didn't work out. So I literally launched my podcast the week that she told me that she wanted to end hers. Out of spite. So I was like, oh, are you guys looking for a podcast? Boom. And then I didn't stop. I did literally every single Monday for 2.5 years. The only reason I stopped was because when I got this this project for this reality, it's hard to explain it because people always default to like a show. When you think like dating, you're like, oh, it's a dating show. It's the first of its kind, which is why it's hard to explain. It's an unscripted rom-com, meaning it's the same...
Like improv.
Essentially. So it's like a dating show, but instead of it being a show, it's a movie. Right? So instead of it being episodic, so if you're
straight through.
So if you're going to watch like Love Island, you're going to see like 8 episodes, right? This is the equivalent of like a Love Island, but it's 1 episode. That's an hour and a half. You know what I mean? So like they just blocked it out to make it where it was just, beginning, middle, end kind of a situation, right?
I get you.
So because I was on that, they didn't want me to have my podcast out because it was giving too much information about who I was. People could just like, get to the nitty gritty of who it was that I was. So they just told me to archive everything.
Yeah.
So I archived my entire YouTube. It's still archived to this day. I don't have anything up on a YouTube or anything.
Were you making any revenue off of it?
No, because like I was.
For the game.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. It was like. So I had a solo podcast because like you can imagine with you guys having a handful of people. If one person drops off and you're kind of relying on that person, it makes things a little bit trickier. And honestly, I had some trauma from that previous situation where I was like, yo, if I have a co-host or somebody else that I have to rely on, now we're dealing with 2 schedules, 2 lives, 2, health conditions. Like it's just too many things to deal with.
Yeah, schedules.
So for me, it just made it easier to be like, look, I'm just going to be the one-stop shop where on Sundays I record, I edit Sunday night, I upload Monday morning. I edit the covers. I distribute on all the platforms. I chop up a quick little clip for the Instagrams and the TikToks and whatever, and then just kept
I'm sorry, my head.
You the behind the scenes of what we got going on.
My head was just spinning. I was like, yo, I do like 2 or 3 of those things, and that's it.
Yeah, we split up into groups and individuals, right? So it's like easier to deal with because having to deal with all that just with one person, like, bro,
that's the smarter way of doing it. If you can delegate tasks to different people. But again, I'm just a sicko where I was like, I don't want to have to rely on anybody who tells me. The whole reason why I learned how to edit videos in the first place was because I was paying people to do it and they weren't executing properly. So I was like, I need to just do this myself too. And then it just got to a point where I was just like, bro, I'm like too autonomous now. Now it's like, I got to start relying on other people. I don't want you to help me, bro. Yeah. So, but yeah, so ultimately, so the reason I stopped recording was because I was like, well, I can't post them anyways. So I just stopped, and then I never felt really a crazy desire to be like, let me put myself through all that fuckery all over again for the 37 viewers that are watching monthly or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But,
and what got you into acting? Like, because I've always been interested in, I'm like, how does somebody even start?
Yeah.
What
Also,
drives
did you go through background acting first and then into
no.
auditions?
So these are my favorite questions to ask because I think people, they treat acting as if it's like you need to be this proficient thespian and like, bro, I have literally never taken a class ever.
Really?
Not a workshop, not a fucking seminar, not even a YouTube video, nothing.
Just showed up.
So essentially what happened was, so when I came back from Kelowna, so I moved back to Toronto, September 2020. If you guys have never been to Kelowna, I highly advise just because it's such a healthy lifestyle there. I came back to Toronto with an 8-pack. I was ripped.
Damn.
Literally within a year, all those Uber Eats and the liquor,
Gone.
right back to the titties and the gut and whatever. So it's a mess now. But so when I came back, I was in decent shape, and I was like, bro, like I'm in my 30s. I'm like, if there's ever a time for me to start, it probably should be now, or else I'm just never gonna never gonna do it. So I was like seeing this girl very briefly when I first moved back, and beautiful girl. She looks like Sade, like just she's like
She look good.
She look good. No, she freelance modeled, but the thing was, couple screws were loose because she pointed me in the direction of
always the pretty girls.
Yeah. No, she was like, yo, she's like, I think you would be a good fit for this agency because like they have a diverse roster and whatever, and like I think it's more of like a boutique agency, which essentially means like it's like almost like a startup agency where like you're not
similar to like a grassroots.
Yeah, or just like more so like just like instead of jump into one of the huge CAAs in California where it's like they represent the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world. It's like, bro, like you're just trying to get your foot in the door. They'll send you some auditions to try to get your feet wet type shit, right?
Okay.
So I was like, well, why aren't you signed to this thing? She's like, I don't know. I feel like everybody hates me. Come to find out, she was clairvoyant, which means she talks to ghosts on a day-to-day basis.
Nah, we good. Yeah, leave that alone.
I'm learning a new word today. All the prettiest girls are, a little crazy.
You got a couple screws loose. So, but anyways, I thank her for pushing me in the right direction because I reached out to my now agent. I've only ever been with one agent since I started. So I reached out to her, I want to say end of 2020, officially signed, I want to say January 2021. And I was fortunate enough where like I kind of hit the ground running. And I was booking like one thing a month every single month for like the first like 2 years of doing shit, which is very rare. A
it's
lot of
unheard
times
of.
you hear people say like, oh, like it took me 6 months before I booked my first job or whatever the case was, right?
Yeah.
I think the difference is one, because I'm a little bit older, I think I've had more experience. So even though I haven't had any formal training, I did stand up on and off for 15 years. I was the captain of my improv team in high school. I was a radio personality for a few years. Like I
Oh, yeah, you're
hosted all
seasoned.
the
Yeah,
different
you've been
Yeah, the
training
lived
in the
experience,
background,
yeah.
I've
basically.
got like
Yeah.
a plethora of experience. Remember, my resume goes pretty deep, but in terms of actually acting, zero credentials whatsoever, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when I was 17 and still in high school, I did extra work. I did like I think 2 movies or like a movie and a TV show where I was
What
like a
movies?
featured extra. Bruh, we're talking literally 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and those were not great movies. Actually, the highlight of one of the movies was Carmen Electra was in it. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, you got to understand, I'm 17. Carmen Electra is like...
Yeah, she's
bruh,
popping.
like-
Yeah.
So I went and got my ears pierced specifically because I knew she was into dudes like Dave Navarro, Dennis Rodman. I was like, yo, I gotta up the edge a little bit. You know, I can't be pulling up like a square. So I got my ears pierced. Obviously, my dad being West Indian, he's like, oh, yeah, Botsy boy. So I was like, all right, it's probably not the best thing. So what was sick, though, is that there was a scene in the movie where, so there was me and my homie, who was also a featured extra. We're both light-skinned dudes or whatever.
Yeah.
So
What's your background like?
so
what-
my dad's from St. Vincent. My mom's French-Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in this scene, I guess Carmen Electra shows up. So like the kid who was like the lead of the movie, Ryan Pinkston, he was like the guy who was in Punk'd, like the little kid in Punk'd.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So
yeah.
he tried to like I guess transition into having some bigger roles in movies and stuff, but like he only really landed like this type of shit. So I mean it's shot in Winnipeg, so
Yeah.
I mean well
I mean-
let's not even let me not slight Winnipeg because they are shooting some legitimate projects there because it is cheaper just to shoot in Canada in general.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Carmen Electra essentially shows up. I guess it's like this guy's like birthday party or whatever. So she has this big cake, right? So my homie's job is he's supposed to slide open the sliding door, and then she goes into like this like pool party section or whatever with this cake, has an interaction with the kid, whatever, right? Apparently, my homie was a shitty door opener, so they scrapped him. They're like, you do it. So I'm like, oh, say less. As I'm sliding the door open, my elbow hits her tit. Bro, when I tell you I didn't wash that elbow for 2 weeks, because she was wearing this like see-through dress where you could just see the shits were just poking through the shit. It's like it's Winnipeg, bro. It's cold.
Let's
So,
not
like,
talk about see-through dress right now.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, she was Bianca Sensori before Bianca Sensori was Bianca Sensori. But yeah, so anyway, so that was I guess my introduction to like acting to a certain extent. But yeah, like I got an agent I think when I was 18, and they got me like a Sears commercial where I had to stand outside for like 4 or 5 hours in minus 53 weather, modeling off these jackets. And I think I got paid after my agent took their cut, maybe like $47, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was
That's
like, nah, this ain't the industry for me.
That
So then
ain't
I
it.
literally stopped for damn near 20 years. And then, yeah, so fast forward back to 2021. Did an interview with my agent, signed on, and just they started sending me auditions and then started landing some shit, right? So I haven't booked anything super substantial in terms of like film and TV, but in terms of commercials, bruh.
Yeah, you got it locked down.
Unmatched.
So-
I've been fortunate to have booked a lot of commercials.
Yeah.
So
the
what
last
would you
few years.
say is your favorite commercial that you shot?
Yeah, what kind of commercial was it?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say that the one I'll call it my favorite. So my favorite is the Swiffer one, and I'll tell you the reason why. So one, I play like 8 different versions of myself, which was kind of cool just to be able to like have like, you know, a bunch of different versions of you.
Like the Eddie Murphy
Whatever.
effect.
Yeah, I was gonna say Eddie
Essentially,
Murphy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Not
yeah.
as much.
Yes.
There was no prosthetics involved.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
literally
yeah.
just like a jogging outfit versus like a suit or something like that. But still, like just to see kind of how, because like what really got me into editing videos in the first place was green screen. I loved the ability to kind of like play around with green screen and stuff. So to do it in a professional capacity was cool. But the real reason why Swiffer is my favorite is that it's the gift that keeps giving. They keep renewing it, where literally, I personally have maybe seen it on TV once, but there isn't a single week that goes by where somebody doesn't message me about this with
Ooh, that's good.
literally and keep to account, this was shot March 2022. We're February 2025. So if they, knock on wood, hit me up again next month for another renewal, I'm eating nice.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that, so as a non-union actor, you don't get like residuals every time it plays. You get a buyout for them to be able to use that content for a certain amount of time. So they usually sign on for like a year's usage, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So they'll give you a buyout, which will be thousands of dollars for them to be like, we're going to use this for a year. They've renewed it 2023. They renewed it 2024.
Yeah.
Now we're hoping for the 2025. And what's funny is that, so sometimes they'll have me come in and do like update some of the voiceovers just because like, yeah, the commercial can still play, but maybe they've changed like one of the scents in the like Swiffer pod thing or whatever, right? So they'll have me come in and it takes me like 45 minutes and then you get paid like a nice chunk of change for that 45 minutes of work.
Yeah.
But they're, I'm trying to remember, it's like Source Connect or whatever the program is that they use where they can kind of like engineer from remotely, like they're in New York, I'm here. So I'm talking to them and I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but I'm like, this is like the third time that we've renewed. Like, is that normal? They're like, oh, when you're with Swiffer, you're with Swiffer. We have a commercial currently on air for 6 years.
Excuse me.
And I'm
Excuse me.
Loyalty.
But I will say, so as most recently though, so in November, it was the first time I got to fly outside of the country for a job. So I got to go to Mexico City, which was sick.
Oh, that's lit.
Yeah. So, and that was also the first time that I got paid a stunt fee. Now, it doesn't sound like it's that challenging of a task, but when you're in it, it is, bruh, it was by far one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life.
Why was it so difficult?
So essentially what the premise was, it's the last commercial I posted, which was for Key Bank. So the premise of the commercial is there's a couple dudes golfing. One of them gets distracted. The ball goes inside of a pond. Now, it's a duck pond, so then you just see, like, you know, these ducks or whatever. Then one duck comes up, and the duck is on my head, so I've been underwater this whole time, right? So the fucked up part is that they gave you, like, earplugs because they don't want you to get all the water and stuff in there. And I will say, they were very diligent in terms of, like, making sure all the safety precautions were there. Like, they had us, like, dunk our foot in, like, this bucket of pond water and like wait 10 to 15 minutes to see if we had any adverse reactions. They gave us like antibiotic cycles to put on and whatever, blah blah. We had wetsuits underneath our actual outfits. They had a next dude in a wetsuit in case some shit went down to just be there, whatever. So like very
They're trying
efficient.
to cover their ass for real.
The liability, the insurance, you gotta do all that.
lawsuit,
They don't play it.
Yeah,
The company's done.
Yeah, it takes one lawsuit and you're fine. Especially like when you're dealing with like American companies, they're so accustomed to like lawsuits flying left, right, and center, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, so the premise of it is that I'm underwater and then as I come up, I deliver my lines. Issue is, so my co-host or co-star or whatever you want to call her, she's got like a crocodile hat on, right? Now, when she comes out the water, because the crocodile hat is so long, the water falls from the front.
Yeah.
I've got feathers that are literally pouring into my eyes to the point where I'm coming up. Keep it to account, I can't hear anything. I still can't see anything because of the water.
Oh
I still feel like I'm underwater, even above ground. I feel like I'm drowning.
Oh,
so I'm trying to say the line. I'm like, and so if you actually look at the commercial, I actually took a screenshot because I thought it was so funny. I'm like, bro, how is this even going to get used? Because it looks like I'm dying this entire commercial. So yeah, so literally we did that a bunch of times.
Yeah, we're gonna post it for you guys.
Yeah.
So you can see here, like, literally I was like, bro, I'm drowning under this water right now.
Out. I can't.
So stressed. It's like we're doing this over and over again, and like you're trying not to get the water in your mouth because we got there mad early. So they picked us up from our hotels at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, and then we drove an hour outside of the state. We weren't even in Mexico City anymore. So we drive an hour to this golf course. So we get there probably like 6 o'clock. Eat some breakfast, and then we go to like the area where we're about to shoot, and it's like still dark. Like the sun is out, but it's still dark, so you don't really see what's in the water. So I'm in the water, I'm cooling, I'm like, all right, this is fine, whatever. Then we break for lunch, come back. Now the sun is like really shining, and you can really see what's in there, bro. These fish were huge that were in there. One of them died, so they had to come scoop them up, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. So I realized how hard it was to like get in and out of the wetsuit. So there came a time where they're like, oh, do you want to take a break? Because I was in the water for like 4 or 5 hours. I was like, nah, I'm straight. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I turned to the other dude who was like in the wetsuit. I'm like, bro, would it be a big deal if I just piss myself right now? Because like I really don't want to get out of this water. And he's like, no, Poppy, it's okay. It's fine. Don't do that. It's okay. It's our secret. It's no problem. So I was like, all right, bet. So I just fucking
Yeah. Oh,
I
man.
probably felt uncomfortable though. A little pee.
It's kind of nice because you're in this like cold water.
It'll warm you up a bit, yeah.
And, like, the wetsuit kind of presses it up against you, kind of crazy. I
Oh,
don't know.
man.
It's-
Oh, man.
Wouldn't advise, but like,
Yeah. Good showers after. Good shower after.
So I was gonna ask, in terms of like when you're showing off your personality, you did podcasting, you did MC work. I was there actually, the Wu-Tang moment and the guy,
the panel.
and then what was that guy that the guy and he was saying something about America or something, and then you were just like, I seen the comedy, like the stand-up comedy on it. I forgot the premise or something. Like I think he just I forgot it, but
No knocking the table.
It was a guest?
no, it was an
From the panel?
audience member, and I think there was someone who just introduce yourself, and then instead of introducing themselves for the question, they just like, "What do you did this?" and then it just came off weird.
I don't even remember that.
Okay, but he did such a great job because then he did some stand-up comedy while like I guess there was like an issue or something like that. So then this guy did stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
Oh,
so essentially what happened was, so first of all, that is a JML event. So JML is I guess like a newer record label. They were trying to get a way to push the branding out there, get some notoriety, whatever. So they put the panel together. My brother's involved in that. My friend Astral as well. You guys probably know him as like Drake's photographer or whatever. Like if you look at his page, the aesthetic is crazy. Like some really iconic shots on there. But yeah, so they asked me to MC it. Like they already had Alex, who was going to be like the moderator for the panel, did a phenomenal job, but they wanted somebody to kind of like, add some levity, do some transition shit, introduce some stuff, whatever. So I was like, fuck it. I mean, it's kind of what I do. So I'm like, whatever. So we did that, and I guess there was like some delays. So they were like, yeah, filming some stand-up. I'm like, I don't know if you guys want me to do stand-up here, because like my stand-up is not really like rated for, because I'm looking around in the room and I'm like, bro, there's like Warner Music executives, and then there's also like some 19-year-old like girl who's just like a folk singer who's just here to try to take in game. So I'm like, I don't know if people want to hear like premature ejaculation jokes and like whatever, but guess what? They did. So you can actually, if you look at the footage, it's kind of funny. You can actually see my wheels turning where I'm just like, I'm either I commit fully to this, or I just leave it alone and just kind of be like, sorry for the interruption, guys. Like we'll resume shortly. And I was like, nah. I was like, yeah, I nut quick. I don't have to tell you. And then I just went into some shit, but it felt good because like I don't really go out and do stand up all that much these days. But
how did they receive it?
No, the audience loved it. Like it was a great thing. And then there was another moment where like I think I remember now, the guy got the numbers wrong in the raffle. That guy, and it was a great moment because I think he just like thought he won, so he came up and everyone just like was pissed already. I got pissed, I didn't win, but he came up and then I think he was just like, "Yo, he didn't read it," and he's like, "What do you mean?" And then it's just like that whole back and forth.
I don't like to diss too many people, but that guy was corny. I'm sorry, bro. Like he came up and he was like trolling in a sense, where he was just like, so yeah, I won this thing. So we're like, it's delaying the process now because we're like, okay, well now we have to wait, we have to verify, make sure the numbers are cool, whatever, whoop-de-whoop. So then when we found out it wasn't, it's like, bro, you're banned now. And I hope you really don't legitimately win a prize, because you're not gonna win a prize.
Yeah, you're wasting everyone's time.
Corny. And then afterwards, because we had like an after party, he rolled on me and like gave me his business card, and he was like being inappropriate to some chicks. Like, I don't know who that dude is. Look, wish him the best. He was a weirdo though. I'm sorry. You gotta call a spade a spade. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that's what the industry needs. You just gotta call a spade at the end of the day. Not,
So
is what it is.
I think it's time to switch gears and start with our segment, the Pandora's Box segment. So what we usually do is when we have a guest, we have them open this box here and take up a question.
All right, sick.
So
Where do these questions stem from? Is it just you guys that?
we just come up with the questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it or just hand it to somebody?
Yeah, no,
you
you
can
read
read
it.
it.
You read it.
God damn. With the pressures of everyday life, how can people maintain healthy habits without feeling overwhelmed or guilty?
Yep.
That's a great question. With the pressures of everyday life, how can people maintain healthy habits without feeling overwhelmed or guilty? Well, I think, speaking for myself personally, I think this year I've been a little bit kinder to myself, just because in the past it's very easy for you to be like, well, we do this comparison thing all the time where you like open up your social media and you see somebody doing well or doing something that you want to be doing. So you're like, well, I'm not motivated. I'm too lazy, or I'm not working hard enough, or whatever the case is. And you have this disease of just comparing yourself to people all the time. Mm-hmm. So this year, like I said, there was a time in my life where I was in phenomenal physical shape. I've really let myself go, but then I'm like, bro, like I'm older. So now instead of being like, okay, it's a new year, new me, I'm going to go crazy in the gym and whatever the case is, I literally make it a point to just be like, I'm just going to go to the gym, even if I just walk for 30 minutes, maybe if I just do some stretches, maybe I just throw a couple weights around, whatever the case is. As long as I'm going, then I can't be so hard on myself because I still went to the gym. And it's on my floor in my building. I have no excuse to not go to this gym.
That's crazy.
But sometimes I think when it's so accessible, it just becomes...
You take it for granted.
You take it for granted, right? So... I think, just instead of looking at it as like a macro thing, like how can I, change from like go to 0 to 100 right away, just make small little incremental things, little changes differently. Just
baby steps.
The baby steps, that's it, bro. Because so I'm 4 days right now, no vaping, which is... I'm going through withdrawals. Like, I'm vegan right now, right? And it's not the first time that I've attempted to quit, but I've just told myself, I'm like, bro, like, you got to look at the pros and the cons, and there's really no pro to that shit. Like, it's just an oral fixation. It's just a terrible habit. It was just so toxic to me. So, like, but then also at the same time, like, I like to drink, so I'm like, but I'm not going to cut everything out at once, because then I'll just go crazy and be like, oh, I let one slide back in, well, I might as well let them all slide back in.
You know,
right?
you need a healthy...
hard.
Yeah, you need a healthy vice. You know what I mean? Like, for me, like, it used to just be drinking, and now, like, I replace that with going to the gym more, where it's like, yo, if I'm going through something, I'll just, like, go to the gym. Or if I don't have that chance, like, I'll probably find something else, like read a book or something. Like, you just need something that takes that stress away, you know what I mean? So it's not easy.
No,
it just takes time. You know, you gotta keep trying, failing until you get it. You know what I mean? You get the habit.
Yeah, that's the worst part about it. I don't like getting up and restarting stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just keep rolling and don't stop. And if it stops, I just want to do something different completely. True. And not even. I
think with health in general, we definitely take that for granted.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking for myself personally, like, I'm more of a reactionary person than a proactive person. Yeah. So like, it's only until I start seeing my belly and my tits where I'm like, I gotta go to the gym. When in reality, I should have just been going just to feel better. Yeah. You know. So like, I think it's instead of doing things for like the aesthetic or whatever, you have to change your mindset to be like, no, I have to do this so that I can live a healthy and fulfilling life, rather than just watching my body deteriorate as I get older. Right?
You get a better quality of life when you like be proactive with the gym and eating and just being more mindful of these things, because like you said, like a lot of us take this stuff for granted. Like, health is wealth, and like we tend to forget it because of our busy life, right? So
yeah, it's super hard to manage that, especially if you're doing your acting and waking up at 4:30 and all that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, how many jobs do I book in the span of a year or two, right? So like, that's not even like that. So I have a day job, so I just do like some digital support, which is super flexible for acting or whatever. So anyone who is an actor, like, you're either doing remote work or you're bartending or some shit, right? So like, I like the ability of still having like a mild routine when I'm not doing gigs and stuff. But yeah, it's just, you have to still be able to prioritize your health around whatever it is that you have going on, because everybody's busy. Everyone has the opportunity to give themselves excuses, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, my dad is older as well. He's 83. So I look at him and I'm just like, bro, like, the last like 15 years of his life has just been him just posted up in bed, just like watching sports, watching shit, like, just like, he gets excited if he has enough strength to go to the casino. That type shit, right? And I'm like, I don't really want to get to that point. Like, granted, he was also very physically like able, well into his like 60s and like early 70s or whatever. So I'm hoping I get his genetics because my mom's white genetics. She's got a lot of things replaced. She's got a lot of ailments. It's just let me just.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
I had a question about kind of when we talk about life, we talk about mental health as well. So one of the biggest concepts that we have on our podcast is we ask like everyone that comes on like about their mental health. So since we're talking about it a little bit, kind of like, how are you doing? Like, how's your mental health doing?
I've never been worse. No. Yeah, honestly, mental health is something that I really have been taking seriously over the last little while. So when I was in Kelowna, that was like a complete 180 of just like lifestyle change entirely. So I didn't drink for 2 years. I was meditating every day. I was forcing myself to go on like Duolingo and like I was listening to a minimum of 1 audiobook a week. Was listening to more constructive podcasts rather than destructive ones or whatever. And in 2022 I think because I was in such a good headspace is when I decided that I wanted to go into therapy, because like I think a lot of times people wait until they have like some traumatic incident happen to them and they're like, okay, well now I have to unpack this. I was like, no, I'm at a good space, so this is probably the best time where I can literally just like flush out whatever, because I don't feel like I'm in a bad, mental state where because sometimes like if you wait until you're going through something, whether it be like a divorce or a loss in the family or whatever the case is, like talking to somebody might help, but then it also might just like reinforce that trigger and just kind of, have you spiral in that sense as well. So,
Too much pressure.
Yeah, so I waited until I was in a good space, and I thought it was constructive for the most part. I think that it just kind of got weird when I felt like my therapist was like almost using my life as like their entertainment, where I felt like I was a part of a social experiment where.
Why did you feel like that?
Because I initially came to them and for like help with like imposter syndrome, but then it became this thing where they kept asking me to like try things in like my dating space, like, oh, you reach out to this person and say this and like try that and this blah, and I'm like, this is giving like Love Is Blind or something.
It's like, tell me how the next episode goes. Like, did it work? Nah.
I'm like, I was just trying to find out if I should keep doing my podcast, and like this motherfucker's like, yo, so it's like, how was the date with Kara? And like, I'm like, wait, what? So
it was a guy.
Huh?
Was it a guy or a girl?
It was a guy. So I was very intentional on who I chose to be my therapist. So I wanted somebody who was in my age demographic, so he was my age. Somebody who was so he's a black guy. He was married, because I didn't want somebody that was going to gaslight my lifestyle and be like, you're doing everything just fine, single and mingle. Like, I wanted somebody who had structure to be like, oh, well, if you eventually want to get into, a structure or have a foundation with somebody or whatever, these are some things that, have helped me, or like these are things that you have to keep into account or whatever. But yeah, so, and he was from Ontario, whatever. So he checked all the boxes. But he was also a social worker, so he wasn't necessarily like a psychologist or psychotherapist. So maybe that's where like his route kind of was a little bit more loose and whatever. But all in all, I thought the experience was good, and I definitely think everyone should at least try therapy, whether it be like a free resource like a BetterHelp or one of the hotlines or whatever the case is, or if you do have either disposable income or a good insurance plan or whatever, like. Most insurance plans will only cover like $500, which is like maybe 3, 4, 5 sessions, depending on how expensive the therapist is. But I mean, still very worth it if you're just trying to get your foot in the door and just see if it's something that you enjoy, because who knows, it might end up being worth it in the long run. So my insurance didn't cover, because he was a social worker, so then he actually reduced his cost pretty drastically. I think I was paying like $90 a session or something like that, instead of like $160, which is what he normally charges. So I mean, yeah, you just gotta. If it's something that you're interested in doing, I think, the sooner the better, just because it doesn't hurt to literally pay somebody to listen to your fuck shit, and they're legally not allowed to share that information.
And it's more in a professional sense too. It's not like your homie down the street or something. It's like it's a guy that's been vetted for the most part, and can give you catered, advice, situation awareness. Sometimes you'll mention something that you probably never even thought about, right? Like when I study psychotherapy right now, So I'm one of those ones that like didn't go the social work route. I got a scholarship at like Gestalt Institute of Toronto. So it's a 5-year program. Like,
That's crazy.
2 years are about yourself before you even talk about clients. So that for me was eye opening, because in order to help other people, you got to know yourself.
For sure.
Yep.
So, and then I have one more question. And I think this is just something of curiosity for myself, but also, what's one thing you would tell your younger self?
Ooh, I like that question. Good job.
What would I tell my younger self? I would probably just say, like, try the thing.
Yeah.
Just fucking do it. Because I think a lot of times where I've kind of pump faked my way into certain industries, I think if I would have just had more conviction and just went for some shit, things would have probably been a little bit differently for me. But again, you got to just enjoy the journey. I know that sounds super cliche, but I don't know that I would want to change anything, because had I started, if we rewind to when I was 17 doing featured extra stuff, and let's say I would have landed a good role on a show or something like that or whatever, and like now I'm like in Hollywood and I moved to LA or whatever at 18 years old, I don't know if I was mentally prepared to deal with what that industry has, right? So now I move a little bit differently, where like I show up to set and I make everybody my friend, right? Whether you're a PA, whether you're the craft service truck, whether you're like the director, whoever, I'm just super nice to everybody. There's no ego involved when I'm on a set, as opposed to like maybe when I was 17, where I'm just like, yes, everyone shower with me with your praise and, be nice to me, be kind to me. Oh, you guys are eating this peasantries? Where's my fizzy water? Like,
Trust me, I would have been an asshole if I was rich at 18.
It's the thing, right?
Because you don't go through life, you don't have that character development, right? Like sometimes I feel like certain things in life that we don't get at the time, we're not ready for it, right? It's like, God, I feel like God gives us things when we're in the position to deal with it, right?
For sure. And I feel like I never even answered the initial question of like how you get into it, because I know some people are curious in terms of like how to get into acting. So my advice to everyone is just, one, figure out what your goals are, right? Like, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to do what I'm doing, which is predominantly just commercial shit? Because like that, you can get that started right away. But if you want to be more of like a Daniel Day-Lewis or like I don't know, like a Leonardo DiCaprio or fucking Denzel or Cillian Murphy or like one of these like revered actors, then maybe go and take some classes or be an apprentice somewhere to just try to do as much research about whatever specific lane that you're trying to get into and get as much information as possible. Everything. Yeah, all the workshops. And that's the thing too, is like, even if you just start off with an agency that's maybe not like the biggest agency or whatever, they'll at least have resources to kind of help your journey in whichever capacity you want to take it, right? Like I get like random newsletters from my agent being like, here's a better way to submit self-tapes, or here's how to balance your finances like in between when you're not working all the time, or whatever the case is, right? So like I think the industry's changed a lot too, in the sense that it's a lot more self-tape, where as opposed to like having to go in for each of your auditions. I don't know that I would even be an actor if it wasn't for the fact that we could just submit self-tapes, because I get, again, very fortunate, but I get a lot of auditions. Like I would probably say that in a span of a week, anywhere between like 10 to 20 auditions.
Okay.
Yeah,
so if I had to go individually to each of these places for a first round,
Yeah,
then
make it
they call
harder.
me back and I have to go back to those places for a second round, it's impossible. It's too expensive. It's too much time consumption. So the ability of being able to be like, oh, on Sunday, on Wednesday, and on Friday, I can record like X amount of these auditions, send them through, and then out of the 20, if 3 of them are callbacks, then that's only 3 times I actually have to go in office, and my odds of booking them become a lot higher, and then it's worth it at that point, right? Where if you book 1 of every 20 auditions, which would be very nice if that was the case, then you that one audition that paid off pays for all the other ones that
didn't go through.
Or whatever.
So, tell the people where they can find you, like what you have coming in, like where you're usually at in terms of social media.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where I'm usually at is at home, because I don't go outside in the streets. And yeah, with socials, I mean, I'm pretty much only on Instagram. Like, I have a TikTok, I have like all of the things, but like,
secure your name,
bro, I'm old, man. I'm pushing 40. I know I don't look it, but like, it's like I'm getting up there. So anyway, so it's the Marcel Williams on whatever socials that you may find. But yeah, I'm pretty much just posting like commercials and shit there. Like,
okay, so you have nothing like coming up besides the commercials,
shit, bro. I'm
no
just
stand-ups, no
Maybe I'm
podcast.
trying to get him on the. I'm getting into filmmaking. I have a documentary I'm releasing on Valentine's Day.
Oh, sick.
So I've been getting partnerships and deals actually
Dope.
to do budgets and stuff like that. So I'd love to have you in these projects and stuff like that. And
I'm down.
I'm working on different like documentaries. I want to do a scripted project soon. I'm doing some video series and some other independent stuff. So definitely, Marcel always keeps giving the great advice that, I knew from 2 years ago, and it's only getting better, right? Yeah. So, maybe it gets better. And I just want to thank Marcel for coming on the podcast, showing that love, man.
I wish you guys went so fucking far. I'd pull up more often, but yeah, this is it's a mission, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know if I'll survive it, but yeah, no, I mean, listen, you guys are obviously doing something right. I wouldn't show up here if I didn't think you guys had some motion. But yeah, listen, I'm excited to see whatever you guys got going on in the future.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, I'm starting to do some writing and shit too. So look out for those projects. Don't you worry, we got some shit coming.
We got work.
2025.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets better. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Let us know what you guys think about our episode. And Marcel, if you guys have any questions for him, please drop a comment. And Delux, see it.
And maybe it gets better.
Yeah, that's been our episode.
Peace.